Hi, it's David. Welcome to the Detroit Autorama. They call this the world's greatest custom, classic, and hot rod show. And I believe them. Come on, let's see what we can see. Let's start with the Riddler Award winner. This car started life as a 57 Chevy, but there's not much 57 Chevy original car here. It's been chopped, sectioned, and channeled. Everything about this car has been handcrafted right down to the chrome trim. The interior is also handcrafted with soft leather throughout. It features a 515 cubic inch engine turning out 1,034 horsepower on pump gas. The judges go over all the Grade 8 finalists and other cars like this 63 Ford with a fine-tooth comb. They're looking for perfection, like they found in the 57 Chevy. Creativity, completeness, gapping, paint, interior, and everything is checked. Nothing is missed. These judges know their stuff. It's an honor and a privilege just to be chosen as a Grade 8 finalist. This is a 56 Continental, not a Lincoln, but a Continental. The car has kept much of its original design, but still has a lot of custom features. I spoke with Dan about the interesting dash.
It's all handmade sheet metal. The gauge cluster itself is out of a 1961 Chrysler. It has they call it the Globe gauge cluster. We custom machined some trim for around it, and then the steering wheel itself is out of a 1960 Plymouth.
It has a 5.0 Coyote motor from a late model Mustang disguised to look as a Continental engine. They call it the Scarlet Lady. Another Grade 8 finalist is this 1967 Camaro called Nickelback. Here's a look at the all-leather interior. Under the hood is a 355 engine. It's a beautiful car. Really well done. This Grade 8 finalist is a 69 Camaro. Looks stock, but there are hundreds of custom features to this car. It's got a 515 cubic inch twin-turbo engine turning out 1,084 horsepower on pump gas. Incredible cars here. What about this all-steel 1934 Ford pickup? A lot of custom features went into this little hot rod, including a custom grille. On to other cars. They called this VW the Berlin Buick. I spoke with Rob, a friend of the owner, about this unusual Beetle.
It's a 56 Volkswagen. It's got a 215 Buick V8. It's an all-aluminum motor. They chose that motor because it's short in length. It fits behind the rear seat. Hooked up to a 4-speed transaxle. The dashboard is a 49 Buick. The side trim is 57 Buick that's been recessed into the body. The portholes in the side, the exhaust comes out. Those are 53 Buick portholes.
What a car. There was something about this 1960 Ford Starliner that caught my eye. Somehow I could sense there was something special about it. As you know, I like stories. And here's the story of this Starliner from the owner.
My grandfather owned the original car, bought it brand new, and took it to the Alexander Brothers to have it customized.
Sometime later, Granddad sold the car. And here's where the story gets interesting.
After he sold it, it sat on the side of the guy's house for quite a few years, and his wife got sick of it sitting there while he was out of town, called up the junkyard and had the car crushed.
He had the car crushed? What a shame. Fast forward several years, and the grandson buys another Starliner to recreate Granddad's car.
It's all done exactly as the original car was done. It's exact in every detail.
Every car has a story. This story has been one of them. If Harley Earl was around today, I know he'd be blown away by this 47 Cadillac. Just look at the incredible finish on this car. Everything gleams. The Carson top has been chopped 5 inches, and there are too many modifications to mention here. Danny has owned this Shelby for 18 years and went through it completely to make it a showstopper.
Love it. Absolutely love the car.
Danny says he had to do something with the car. He wanted to keep it. What a great job. It's powered by a 350 GT. Nice interior, too. Who doesn't like this 1935 window street rod? It's running a 451 BBC. BBC refers to Big Block Chevy. Speaking of high horsepower, there's nothing funny about this funny car. Here's the story. 2,700 horsepower on nitrous. Yikes. This 55 Chevy is nothing to sneeze at either. It's running a 6.2-liter engine turning out 556 horsepower. It's certain that Nash didn't have this in mind when they designed the 53 model. It's powered by an LS1 engine with a 700 R4 transmission with shift kit. Nice interior with air. All around a cool car. No pun intended. Here's a little story about Ron and Diane, a couple of crazy kids from Stony Point, Ontario, and their chopped and channeled 53 Merc pickup. Rob had seen this truck many times over the years and wanted to buy it.
I just fell in love with the truck, and when the opportunity came to buy it, when he finally said he was going to sell it, I pounced on it as fast as I could.
Rob says it turns out about 400 horsepower at the rear wheels, and it's a lot more than just a pretty pickup. It's had no road wear since 2010. Like most cars here, it's only for show and not for go. The owner of this Chevy says it was built as a street car and a drag car. It was a 2-year build and has a twin-turbo 427 churning out a shade under 1,500 horsepower on pump gas. Here's a sleek-looking chopped and channeled 70 Charger. It's fitted out with a 730 horsepower Dodge R5 NASCAR engine. I wanted a shot of this 59 Pontiac that looks exactly like the car I used to own years ago, except mine was a Parisienne with a wimpy 283 under the hood. Not nearly as nice looking as this car, and not as powerful either. And right next to it is a 1969 Corvette. I used to own one of these too, except mine had T-tops. And like mine, this has a 427 390 horse engine and a 4-speed. Two really beautiful cars. Here is a Super Performance 63 Grand Sport Corvette. It's a very special model, even if it's not an original. Owner Mark explains.
It's a replica of the original Grand Sports that General Motors raced back in 1963 at Le Mans, and this car is under license by GM to be an authentic replication of those Grand Sports that were built. GM only built 5 Grand Sports back in the day.
One of the first things I noticed was it doesn't have a split rear window. Turns out the original Grand Sport didn't have one either. Here's a 41 Willys. It's an all-steel body car, and it's fitted out with a 350 turbo transmission and LS1 engine. You know, everywhere you look there are beautiful cars like this. But let's turn the clock back a little to the Brasser era. Here we have a 1911 Olds. I asked Ray of the Stahl Auto Museum about the engine.
It's a T-head. It was converted from a 6-cylinder to a 4-cylinder for racing back in the day. It's 500 cubic inch displacement. We don't know what the horsepower is. We don't have a whole lot of history on the car. It was configured to race by the original owner. They raced it until the early 60s.
For a Brasser era car, this is pretty rugged.
Well, the last owners were from Grosse Ile, and they drove the car cross country, 15,000 miles in the early 2000s.
Bad roads back in 1911 meant the need for extra tires and spares of all kinds. Here's a beautiful 1947 Olds Super Convertible. It's got a 580 horsepower engine with tons of torque. Ron spent a solid 14 months working on this car.
The engine is an LSA, which is supercharged. It's the latest. It's a crate engine. The tranny is also automatic. The complete interior was redone in leather. It's an exercise, you know, I guess elderly people have to do too for a hobby.
Here's a quick look at the underside of this Buick. You could tell by the chrome grille this is a 56 Ford F100 pickup. It's beautifully restored and has lots of upgrades. There's a quarter-mile Cruiser 65 Mustang with a supercharged 427 LSX engine. And here's another fast mover. It's a honkin' Camaro SS with the wildest looking engine and supercharger I've ever seen. The only word that comes to mind is bodacious. Here's something a little more sedate. It's a 1937 Pontiac Woody, and the owner says only about 500 of these were made in that year, and only 5 are left. It appears to be in all original condition, right down to the hood ornament. Now a 48 Olds, it also appears to be in original condition with a flathead 6 under the hood. Here's a look at the interior. This gorgeous 57 Cadillac is not as sedate as it seems. It's got an LS2 engine and a 6-speed transmission, heated seats, cruise control, and a lot more features never dreamed of in 57. What a beautiful car. Every car has a story. This is a 1924 Ford pickup. Owner Larry gives us a lesson on fitting a big engine into a small space.
It's a 1965 427 single overhead cam Hemi, known as a cammer. And I twisted it, turned it sideways 40 degrees, and to allow the stock hood sides and the hood to go over the whole motor with no scoops, cutouts, or bubbles. I've wanted a Model T short bed closed cab pickup since I was 14 years old. And I've been through 20 other hot rods, learning the ropes and trying to develop my skills to the point to where I could actually take on this one and design it and build it. The carburetors on top of the blower are a very rare Autolite inline 4-barrel. Very few was built in 1969, and they are 1,425 CFM each. And each carburetor has 4 3/8 fuel lines to feed it, and each carburetor has 430cc fuel pumps on them.
See what I mean about these stories? This pickup took Larry 17 years to build. Let's go down to the basement now, away from all the glitz and the glamour. This is where Autorama began all those years ago to raise funds for a drag strip. Here you'll find a little bit of everything. Rusty cars, recreated early racers, rat rods, unrestored classics, and even a custom bubble-top VW. This rat rod would make Ed Roth squeal with delight. Lots of our own Windsor area cars here too. And there's Bob with his 39 Ford. This is a shot for you, Bob. Ed's Hot Rod Henry J. And there's that 37 Woolsey Rat Rod. And Don's 1940 Ford with a 401 Buick Nailhead. Gino was here from Leamington with his 55 Chevy. What a nice car. I met him for the first time and asked why he bought this car.
Why did I buy it? Because it brings back a lot of memories since I was a little kid. I used to spend a lot of time in cars like this, and I wish someday I would have owned it. And actually, this is about my 5th Chevy I've had, and I just have a love for them because of the style, the chrome, and like I said, it brings back a lot of memories.
Gino bought the car pretty much as it is, but made a few changes to the interior. You know, the beauty of Autorama is you see just about everything automotive. Imagination run wild. If it moves and screams, notice me, it's here. So long for now from the 2018 Detroit Autorama. I hope you enjoyed. And come the season, we'll see you at the car shows and cruise nights.